Hi, my name is Brent, and this is my video game collection right here. So this is not my complete collection, although it is the majority of it. And I was going to actually originally make this video on one of my two other cameras that are much nicer than my phone here, but I can't find the charger for either of those things, which is quite disconcerting. But yeah, let's just have a look at what we got here. So right here we have a whole slew of Nintendo 64 games rather, and that comes onto some random discs. So you got some TurboGrafx 16, some Dreamcast, and some PlayStation. So obviously not big systems in my collection. Jumping down, we got a whole slew of 3DS games, followed by some DS games, and then down here we've got my PSP collection. So those are just the ones that I have got the boxes for. I do have a bunch of loose carts that are all around here. So on the floor I just tossed some of the loose PSP discs. There's a bunch of Game Boy Advance, Game Boy games. There's a few Game Gear games. And I know I have some more Game Gear games. I just can't find them. So it's, again, a bit disconcerting. But when you own this many games, it's not too hard to lose track of a bunch of them. So over here, we've got the Super Nintendo, which is clearly my big system, and it's the system I started collecting games for. So those two big stacks there, there's one Super Famicom game, which is Mario and Wario. It's a fun mouse-driven puzzle game. There's also another stack there, which is right beside all of those NES games. So right now the NES games are the tallest. It's about 6 feet worth of NES games. So just tons of classics in there, and of course a bunch of crap. Skipping over this big pile, which is coming about 5'4", is entirely Xbox 360 games. That's the first of the last generation consoles that I picked up, so I definitely got my fill of those guys. Next door we got Xbox, which was a system I didn't realize I owned so many games for. So a couple of 360s in there by accident. Then some PlayStation 2. Again, never really a PlayStation guy. I didn't start really collecting PlayStation games until we get to PlayStation 3, which covers all those guys there. And then got Wii U, along with a Sega Saturn and a Sega Master System game that snuck in towards the end. Wii U, which is a system I don't actually own yet. It's on the list, but I've started collecting games for it and getting games for it. And then a bunch of Wii games, so I've got a pretty respectable Wii collection. I like that one a lot. And then the GameCube, which is one of my favorite systems. I've still got my GameCube hooked up alongside a Nintendo 64 and a Wii in the living room of my place. So we got some Sega Saturn games, some of the boxed Sega Genesis, and next door to that are a bunch of loose Sega Genesis ones that are all upside down. We got Sega Master System, and then some boxed Intellivision games. So they're boxed. The boxes aren't in great condition. It's more useful to have those so you've got all of the different overlays that come with these. Let me just pop one of these guys open here, put it down on the Wii balance board, and well, that one doesn't flip open. A lot of them flip open, but they have these kind of inserts that can be put on top of the controllers and show you different ways of playing. And this way, 1 to 6 is all football. It kind of look like kisses. And then some other moves there. So football, 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 sports, 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 sports. Coming around the corner here, I'm just going to try to not block off the light sources I've set up. We've got a bunch of just random carts, and those are for some of the really old school systems. So we've got Intellivision, we've got Atari 2600, we've got some Atari ST, so for some of the Atari computer systems. And I had one of those as well, and I don't know what happened to that. It was missing a cable, so maybe I got rid of it at some point, but still got the carts there. And then swinging this around here, we have a whole collection of systems. So system-wise, what do we got here? So in the corner, we got some of these longer ones, and I'm going to adjust this light so have light there, and maybe I won't be blocking it entirely. So we've got Telstar Arcade, which is a Pong type game. Actually got another one over here at the other side, which is the Unisonic Tournament 2000. I've had those ones working at times, but they are very, very finicky. And of course, I'm sure the circuitry is not too difficult, so if I knew anything about the electronics of that, it would be pretty easy to do. Underneath that, we've got Sega Genesis, a Sega Master System, an Intellivision, and a ColecoVision. So all of those classic systems right there. Also got a GameCube with the Game Boy Player on it, Sega Dreamcast, Sony PlayStation, and also the Sega Saturn. And then there's an FC Twin, so that is the model that plays Nintendo and Super Nintendo games. That one lives in my room. You've got another Sega Genesis with a 32X on top of it, on top of another Sega Genesis, and then 3 Super Nintendos. You can see the one in the middle there is taking a bit of a beating. That one is actually my first Super Nintendo. And so those 2 top ones have the classic Super Nintendo yellowing, where the one on the bottom does not. And even though it's that beat up, it was one that I let kids that my mom used to babysit play with. It still works just fine. So it's a tough little system. Over to the side, we've got Super Game Boy. So play Game Boy games on the Super Nintendo, along with the Nintendo 64, which I mentioned is still hooked up. You can't quite see it, but there's an Atari 2600, actually an Atari Junior, which was the re-release of the 2600. And underneath that is a Coleco Gemini, which is an Atari 2600 that was released by Coleco, so a completely different system. Then, of course, the classic NES. We got PlayStation, Xbox 360, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and we also have a Wii and original Xbox, the Crystal original Xbox here, which is really still just a monster. Next to all of these systems, I think only the ColecoVision and Intellivision, which have so much space taken up to house their controllers. There's no like electronics there. They're the only ones that come close to the size of this original gigantic Xbox. And one thing of note about this PlayStation 2, so I was very late in the PlayStation 2, and of course, like so many people who own a PlayStation, this is the one that has the swap magic. You'll note that that copy of God of War has a little bit of electrical tape on it, and that's to keep it attached there so it doesn't spin off, since it doesn't quite hold the games on quite as well as it should. It's a bit of a pain in the butt, but that's what you get for modding your systems. And then down here we've got the collection of all the portable game systems. So we've got 3 Sega Game Gears. Only one of those still works. I couldn't tell you which one without having fun with a bunch of batteries. I got PSP, Game Boy Advance. So I got 2 Game Boy Advances and Game Boy SP. I'm looking for another cheap Game Boy Advance, so then I can host a party where we play some of those fun GameCube games. I also need, I think, one more link cable. But yeah, I got those. Over here is another unofficial game thing, like the FC Twin. This guy is called, what is it again? The Handy NES? You know what? It doesn't say. There's no branding on it. But this is a portable NES, so you can plug your standard NES cartridge into that guy there, and it will allow you to play those on the go. Of course, they do stick out considerably. Give me a second. I'll just toss a game in. So, Legend of Zelda, he said, holding the system so really well. There you go. Uncomfortable crunch sound later, and there you go. So if you want to be walking around in public with a system that looks like that, that's an option for you. And then, of course, we got DS, 3DS, Game Boy Color, and old school Game Boy representing e-reader. And there is a lot of controllers that are not here. I do have a Super Scope, NES Zapper. We've got the the U-Force, which was one of the first motion controllers, which doesn't work for craft. So that's it. That last video ran well over the size, so clearly I've talked way too much about this, but this is my video game collection. I own too many video games. That stack there is taller than me. So there you go. If you want to know how to build a video game collection this large, You simply need to find a hole in your life and try to fill it with things. And eventually you'll have a collection like this. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. Bye-bye.